Hey, this is Jamey with Stonemaier Games, and today I'm going to talk about my favorite mechanisms in the new competitive game for 1 to 3 players, Destinies. I think it's really interesting that they chose the 1 to 3 player count here. They could have gone higher. They probably could have gone a little bit lower. We played it at 2 and had a lot of fun. I think this is a game that I would actually enjoy solo too. I don't play many solo games at all, but I think I would have fun with the solo. And it's interesting to me that they made it competitive. A lot of kind of open world exploration scenario based games of this ilk are cooperative, but they made this competitive and it actually worked really well. The core idea is that you have your own personal destiny, a character card with actually 2 different destinies on it, which is one of my favorite mechanisms in the game. That you don't just have one choice, you have 2 completely different paths that you can go on. And going down one path doesn't interrupt the other path. So you can go down one path and discover certain things as you explore, and end up going down the other path instead and fulfilling that other destiny. So you have these destinies that you're trying to fulfill, usually tied to the story of the mission. I won't spoil anything here, even though the first mission is standalone. And I probably could say some things and not spoil anything, but I just don't want to spoil anything about even that first mission, because the whole game is about learning what you're doing within that scenario. So that destiny system I really, really like. Let's see, there's just a lot to talk about here. One thing that you'll notice on the table as soon as you put down the game and start playing the game is the exploration system, which I think has a really, really clever touch, a fog of war touch. Basically, the back of every card, I'm going to show you the top 2 cards of the deck, just the backs of them. The backs of these cards look like this. So it literally has like a fog over a lot of it, but you can kind of see what might be there. And the app that you must use the app for this game, tells you a little bit more information about these cards. I won't show you the other side of these cards, but they're much more detailed art. I'm trying not to look at them myself right now, But as you can see, when these are on the table and you haven't explored them yet, you still get a rough idea of what's there. And I love that they did this. These aren't just blank backsides. They are just unknowns, because even if you're exploring the world and you're looking out into the distance, you can kind of see what's there. You don't know exactly what's there, but you can kind of see what's there. Or maybe you've heard rumors of it. So I love they have unique art for each of the card backs that have this fog of war element to it. Really, really cool element of exploration there. There's so much to talk about in this game. It's a really, really clever game. Let's talk about the difficulty system. So, and tied to the skill test system, which is the 2 combined to be one of my favorite mechanisms in the game. Every player has a character mat here, and they're generic, so that you'll modify these by actually adding the character cards up here. But these themselves are generic. And based on your character card, you will have a certain number of tokens down here in each of these 3 skill categories. And whenever you do a skill test, the basic idea, I mean, there are lots of little decision points within the skill test, but you're going to roll some dice, add up the numbers on those dice, and for every token you have that's equal to or below that number, that is a success. So for example, if I have a peg right here and a peg right here, and I am doing a blue skill test, and I roll a 6, I will have 1 success, 2 successes, in addition to any automatic successes that I rolled on the purple dice. So there's 2 types of dice you can roll. You can look into a full tutorial of the game to understand exactly how that skill test system works. But I love that part of it itself, because during the game you'll be doing things that can manipulate these tokens, moving them back and forth, back if you do something bad, forward and gaining kind of that skill if you do well with them. But I like that it's not just a simple linear, well, it is a linear choice, but it's not just one token. If you only had 1 token on each of these tracks that you're moving back and forth, it would be less of an interesting decision. But you have multiple tokens, so you're always deciding, okay, do I want to get a token that's always guaranteed to hit and move it all the way to the 1, or do I want to move all of my tokens a little bit this way to have an overall chance of having a great success on a turn? This is tied to the app and how the skill test system actually works. An example might be that you go to a tavern and you want to talk to the innkeeper, but he's kind of busy. He's busy with other patrons. And so the test might say, okay, you need to test your now I think green might be somewhat of engagement. So you need to test your green skill to get the bartender's attention. And that's all the app will tell you. It will not give you a number that you need to achieve. It'll just say the skill test is green and you need to try to get the bartender's attention. Do a skill test. And that's when you'll choose how many dice that you're going to roll, and you'll compare them to this, and maybe you'll use some items to boost that value. But the key here is that you are intuiting the difficulty of the skill test. The app has not told you the difficulty. You are intuiting it based on this scenario. And I love that. I absolutely love the thematic immersion of not knowing how well you have to do to accomplish a skill test, paired with, on the back end, when you actually enter that number into the app, the success number into the app, there are varying degrees of success within the app. It's not just a black and white pass or fail. So you might like get the bartender's attention, but it takes a little while, and so you get hungry while that's happening. Maybe you lose a skill or something. So there's varying degrees of success for every skill test that you try. And I just love how that's combined with the intuition element of intuiting how difficult this test is going to be. Because in that test, you might be trying to get the bartender's attention. In another test, you might be trying to drag the bartender across the bar and beat him up for whatever reason. And that might be much more difficult, and it might use a different skill. And so you actually have to intuit that. The last thing paired with this is I've mentioned there are 3 skills here, but there's actually a hidden skill in the game. This is not a spoiler. The rulebook makes this very clear. The hidden skill is morale, or morals, ethics and morals. How your decisions in the game impact the perception of the townsfolk or the area wherever you are, their impression of you. And so if you go around stealing stuff, and you're not very good at it, and people notice that you're stealing stuff, that will impact within the app how people interact with you. And so there's I love the idea of a hidden skill in the game that's kind of underlying all these decision points. So normally in a game like this, I might walk around just being a rogue and stealing stuff because it's a game, it doesn't matter. But in this game, I really thought twice about doing bad things because I didn't want that to impact my chance of interacting with people later on, especially tied to my personal destiny. I thought that was really, really cool. And last, let's see, I'll mention one other thing. Last, I really like, I've talked about event systems before, and oftentimes in games, usually cooperative games, I feel like events can bog down the game a little bit because you're playing these events just as much as you're making decisions yourself. But with this app integration in Destinies, it makes the event so much smoother because it's not like at the end of every turn you need to draw an event card. It's nothing like that. Rather, at certain times throughout the game, determined by the app, it might be your turn, and it might say, okay, it's your turn, and right now the doctor in the town got sick, and maybe it's tied to that scenario somehow. And you maybe a doctor that was on one of the buildings goes away, he gets sick, or he is sick, and you just know that he's sick there. And so it's just organically built into the app. And these events happen sometimes, and sometimes you just begin your turn and nothing else happens. Sometimes you end your turn and an event happens. It's completely built into the app, and the app knows the timing of the types of things that you are doing in the game too. Perhaps I'm giving the app too much credit, but I'm pretty sure it knows this timing, because this app system is built on the Chronicles of Crime system, which is all based on time and time of day. And so I'm guessing that if you have spent like 2 hours in a certain scenario, and the app might have something happen, might have something show up out of nowhere to give you a chance to do something. It's a very clever event system. I'm not sure if there's something really to be learned here about it because you need a fairly robust app to pull this off. But I love that the game stepped outside of this system that we often see of end your turn and draw an event card and do this thing. Events happen sometimes in this game, and sometimes they don't happen based on a lot of other factors that are going into the app. There's a ton of cool stuff in this game. I wouldn't say that I've actually no. There's one other thing that I should mention: the way the items work. The items have a lot of really cool things going on. I don't even know if I should fully go into this. I won't go into all the different things that the items do. Here's an example here. But one of the things I really like about the items is that there are certain skill tests that you can try. There might be a skill test that says open a door. And actually, this is a good example for this card. It might say open a door. And it will give you a choice. You can either use a skill to open the door. Maybe it'll give you a choice to bust down the door. Or it'll give you a choice to use an item. And it won't tell you which item that you need to use because maybe there are multiple items that you can use on that. Maybe there's a key in this deck of item cards. Here's a lockpicking set. And so what I would do is I would hold up this key, this scan code to the app if it lets me do that, if it gives me that option. And the app might say, hey, you just held up a lockpick, you unlocked this door. Or here's a different skill test based on you having the lockpick. It's much easier to do this. Or if I have the key, maybe the key does or doesn't open the door. Maybe I hold up a bag of rice, and the app is like, bag of rice isn't going to help you open this door. You can hold up any item to the app for that purpose. And that in itself is also so cool that you can do that. And again, it comes down to intuition. The app isn't telling you, hey, do you have the key or the lockpicking set? No, you have to look at what you have and intuit based on the theme of these items, whether or not you could actually open the gate with it. Just really, really cool. I would say intuition is the key takeaway to take away from this discussion of Destinies. So many different interesting ways to use intuition and how that adds to the thematic immersion of the game. This is my long list of favorite mechanisms in Destinies. I look forward to hearing your thoughts when you play it. And if these mechanisms that I've described remind you of mechanisms in any other games, please mention them in the comments below. I'd love to discuss them below as well. Thanks.